Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But first, the pizza came. The pizza came. Yay. So, what I'll be doing after I finish up all this front loading is I'm going to sit my lazy ass down in jammies and eat pizza and cheesy bread and probably rewatch Multiverse of Madness, and I regret absolutely nothing. Got to get some relaxing in because tomorrow it's going to be from 9:30 a.m. the moment the park opens till 7 o'clock at night when the park closes. Got to get my relaxing in. Got to prepare. All right. To the disclaimers, right? In the description box, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much, they've threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. Also included in there is NeuroClastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding folks in case the JRC actually sees through with their threat. Also included in there, the Ozark's first article in regards to the Agape boarding school, now known as Stone for Help boarding school situation, a so-called, I'm into this here, so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called trouble male teens that has impending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor who's still on the premises with full access to the boys up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy chasing after drag queens and trying and failing to defund public libraries to actually do his freaking job. And you got a governor. What can be said about our governor? He's special. So send help, read that article, share it on all your social media. We have the other pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign as well, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, and the ever-present, very self-explanatory Change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, folks, please use your headphones, all right? Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity on occasion. We speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger, they are watching this. Very obviously, parental supervision is advised, all right? All right, so where we left off, back on the Sara Villa case again. We're going to make it short and sweet because after this video, I got to go check on the tiny cat with Napoleon complex. I love her, I do. The next video may have a change of venue so I can make sure that she knows she's a loved kitty, but you know what I mean. Okay, count 3. Excuse me, allergies. Plaintiffs hereby reassert and incorporate the paragraphs 1 through 35. Various Judge Rotenberg Center employees intended to inflict emotional distress on Miss Villa through their conduct, or they knew or should have known this conduct would likely result in emotional distress. Thank you! Common sense! The conduct of the Judge Rotenberg Center's employees toward Miss Villa was extreme, outrageous, intolerable, and outside the bounds of decency within a civilized society. Thank you. This conduct caused Ms. Villa severe emotional distress in the form of post-traumatic stress disorder, suicidality, self-injury, and increased levels of aggression. In turn, Mr. and Ms. Villa have suffered economic losses, including medical expenses, travel expenses, and loss of income. Under the doctrine of respondent superior, Judge Rotenberg Center is vicariously liable for any and all damages caused by employees' actions within the scope of their employment. The employees in question were acting within the scope of their employment when they engaged in contact that caused emotional distress. And what blows my mind about this case most of all is that they were told all of this in the IEP. They agreed to follow that IEP. They did not follow a single thing, folks. A single thing. Not one. Not one. The whole argument of, but the IEP gave us permission to do this and that, doesn't apply here. At all. At all. They basically took that previous article, threw it in a burn barrel like we have out in the country, threw gasoline on it, and lit a match. Let's read the next count here, shall we? And we'll close out. I know these are going to be relatively short, but I got to take care of the little one. Count 4. Plaintiffs hereby reassert and incorporate the allegations, paragraphs 1 through 35. At the time that he struck Ms. Villa to the face, Devon Martinez was employed by the Judge Rotenberg Center as a residential coordinator. The people responsible for other acts of physical, verbal, and emotional abuse against Ms. Villa were employees of the Judge Rotenberg Center at the time these incidents occurred. By having agreed to provide residential services to Ms. Villa, the Judge Rotenberg Center owed her a duty of care that included hiring, training, and supervising employees in such a way as to ensure her safety and minimize the possibility of abuse. See, this is what happens when you say 2 weeks training is good enough to allow these folks around the residence. This is that lack of training we've been talking about. These individuals are not trained properly. Not in proper restraints or, well, anything else that they do here. It becomes very obvious when you start going over court documents like this, doesn't it? The Judge Rotenberg Center breached its duty to Ms. Villa by failing to train employees to treat its residents in a humane and respectful way and discipline those who do otherwise. On the contrary, it created and perpetuated an institutional culture in which it is using heavy-handed methods of behavioral control was tolerated, if not condoned. As a direct and proximate result of the Judge Rotenberg's negligent hiring and supervision of Mr. Martinez and other employees who engaged in this conduct, Ms. Villa has suffered serious physical injury and emotional distress. In turn, Mr. and Mrs. Villa suffered economic loss in the form of medical expenses, travel expenses, and lost income. It's kind of point blank, isn't it? They agreed to follow Sara Villa's IEP. They then threw the IEP in a burn barrel, threw gasoline, and lit a match. They did everything the IEP said not to do. But they still maintain to this day that they are following the IEP, where we have seen numerous cases where they've done the exact opposite. And yet, here we are, with them still here. If this were going on at a place out here in my state, outside of the troubled teen industry, of course, because mother of God, that's a rabbit hole, it would have been closed down. One student. The JRC has been dealing with these types of lawsuits for decades. In this particular lawsuit, why I feel it actually has the weight needed is because it's not just one employee that they can scapegoat. It's multiple employees from various shifts. we're going to close on that, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. Make sure you're still subscribed because I am bleeding followers right now. Granted, I don't care, but you see what I mean. Please double check. I appreciate your time. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I will see you in a minute with the tiny one. Bye-bye, everyone.